Hi, everyone, and welcome to Living Resilience. Remember, this podcast is all about encouraging, enlightening, and empowering you. And if you do have any interesting, inspiring story you would love to share, please send an email to livingresilience101@gmail.com. Today on the episode, I'm very excited. We have PETE Preston with us. PETE Preston is the brain behind Cultural Harmony Initiative and is an event held quarterly to promote diversity and inclusion. He's also a co-founder of Settlrz, which is an app that is designed to help people move into the UK to settle. So welcome, Pete, to the podcast.
Thank you, Amma. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, and we're happy to have you as well. The very first question is, who is Pete? And who is the person behind the Settlrz app and Cultural Harmony Initiative?
Thank you, Amma. That's a question I ask myself often, who is Pete? The reason being, I have done so many things, where they're all sort of related because I think the central part of what I do is people. So I'm able to kind of join the dots, with various different things and be able to still be central or focused because ultimately it'll be people based, So my name is Pete Preston Igweki. That's my full name.
Okay.
Well, I've been in Aberdeen 34 years now. 34 years, so quite a long time. So when I first came to Aberdeen, what everyone called me was Pete Preston. In fact, they only called me Preston. That was the only name they called me, Preston. So I came from London, went back to London, but I've really enjoyed my time being in Aberdeen. So I would come back often. After a while, I says, you know what? My dad went to Aberdeen, and I said, oh, you know what? I would just, be happy staying here. It was small, manageable, different from West London where I lived. And so I decided to just stay and never went back. Yeah, so that's Pete. Yeah. What are the things I do now, or my two products are Cultural Harmony and an app called Settlrz, which I have two co-founders, Dina Tissera, who's a councillor, Aberdeen City Councillor, and a very good friend, Naveen Reddy. And Naveen's is from India. He's a manufacturer. He has a manufacturing firm, and we met when I was thinking about this app. Yeah. So how this app came about was about maybe 2 years ago. I would be thinking about how to ensure that the bins, when they come out on the day they're supposed to be going out, I knew exactly which one was. I could never remember, but I think a lot of people are in this boat,
Yeah, absolutely.
So we end up waiting until somebody puts the bin. So if it's recycle, yes, or the black bin, so that's kind of what we would do. And I thought, what if this guy had a meltdown and decides to jade the whole street and just put the wrong bin intentionally? I was like, no, that's not going to happen because it takes 2 other weeks to come pick the right bin. So I had dreams of creating this app just for that. It was whilst we were agitating this, as I said, for 2 years. So it could maybe stay for another 4 years. So it was whilst I was agitating this that I met a few people, one of them being Naveen. And I kind of explained to him what I was going to do with the app, and he asked me, how do you monetize this? I said, monetize, I don't really care about it. I just want to ensure this app. And then, whilst we were talking, a friend of mine called Aaron, Aaron sent me a link, and the link contained things you had to do if you just come into the UK.
Okay.
So I didn't know any of this. And what that entailed was if you're in the UK, you have to have your provisional driver's license. You must open a UK bank account. You must register at a GP, register to vote.
Do you have to have a provisional driver's license account?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
See, I never knew that.
Yes, register to vote.
Okay, that's interesting.
And then I think council tax as well. Yes. So to get an exemption for council tax, you have to But now the problem being that all of these things are great, but they're just
Scattered
scattered
all
all
over. The
over the
information is
it was yeah,
everywhere. Yeah,
so it was painful for the people who would come here. Now you have to remember that some of the people who come here, English is not their first language. So it
absolutely.
was really, really tedious, So when I saw that link, I'm like, this is probably what I should be doing instead of a bin day. Again, like I said, looking to serve more people, this seemed more viable. And then I dragged Dina in because Dina is a big politician, and she was always focused about championing migrant rights, ethnic minority rights, library closures. She's there fighting any injustice against women. So I called her, for a chat and asked her, says, look, we're thinking about this app with things. What do you think? And she nearly burst into tears because while she's a counselor, she's also been a migrant herself for the past 10, 12 years. And she immediately could see that if this were where she had previously, it would have been so much easier.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
myself,
Yeah.
Dina, and Naveen wrapped this app together to make you come into the UK. You're already in the UK. Now I have to stress it's only for people who are in the UK. So you could be an education migrant or an economic migrant, where you've got your visa, you're here, and you're thinking, now what? So the app itself, the main gist of the app is what you call like a concierge. It's like if you went to a hotel, yes, you could find your way, but if there's somebody there who can just point things out quickly to you, you're like, oh, this is brilliant. So take away all that heavy lifting. So that's what the app does. It's more like a signposting app and stuff. But also, if one of the main advantages for me is folk would ask, why won't I just use Google? So now Google is a product that was created, 25 years ago, you know, um, for a specific purpose, which is to search or to browse, hence the word browser. Yep. So at that time and up to maybe a few years ago, that was okay. But now we're now so internet savvy, we've gone past searching around. So what we're doing is fetching or getting. You know what you want and you want it right now. And that's exactly what the app does. So if you ask for how many, so where are the African restaurants in, say, Glasgow, it would only give you the African restaurants in Glasgow with links to the places.
Absolutely. I think what you're doing is brilliant. I think the whole idea is very brilliant because remember my own experience coming in here, really not knowing my left from my right, not knowing where to get information. And yes, there's information out there. Like you said, you Google it, you search. But I think what is unique about this Settlrz app is everything is in one place.
Yep.
And it's tailored to, I think, specific regions or countries. So, like you said, if you're African, you're looking for an African market or restaurant,
Yep.
you could find it there.
Yep.
I know I downloaded it when you spoke to me about it, and I immediately saw the value of such an app. Now, you mentioned that it's only for those that have already arrived in the UK.
Yes.
Are you thinking, I mean, it's an app. Can't it be like, on Google Play where, because I know students, I deal a lot with students, they come into the country without any information, without any clue in terms of, where to get things, where to maybe like housing, for instance,
It's a
where to
culture
buy
shock.
things, culture shock, absolutely. So are you thinking of expanding the scope as it is presently now so that if someone is in wherever country they are, they're thinking of coming to the UK, it could be for studies, it could be for work, and they just want that, one stop shop.
Sure.
As
Yep.
you,
A one-stop
if you
app.
want exactly one stop app where they get this, information. Are you thinking about such in the future?
Yes. Um, the reason why one of the questions we get asked is how come there's nothing else like this? Why should you be doing this? There must be something to do this. But the reality is there is nothing, because one, the size of the project how difficult. So now we're doing, I'm like, oh my God, maybe we should just stop just for Aberdeen, or maybe just do Scotland. It is a lot of work. If you think about having to concatenate 15,000 restaurants, that's just London, into an app. That's craziness, a crazy amount of work, So it's a lot of work to take globally. That's part of our growth plan, but it would involve huge investment from our
Resources, yeah.
and our investment partners to take us there, but in stages. So one of the things you need to do is to make sure that you have the perfect product before you can actually even start thinking about the money, So we just really want to serve. We want people to be so happy using the app, that is a lifesaver. I went to a restaurant once and the a waiter there was using the app and I says, "Oh, that's my app." He says, "No way." He wouldn't believe that was my app, because he said, "Oh, this is where I get all my live visa updates from straight." And I think they just did a change in the rules whereby the threshold, how much you have to have,
To bring in
to bring in his wife, So, or he says he's got. So when he got, I says, "Oh, I have to do this before April or March."
yeah.
So, but he cherishes the app. That's where he gets all his live information from. And using the app to navigate Aberdeen. He's from Nepal,
Okay.
so it was probably one of the best things I've had. Whereby seeing him using the app and me trying to convince him
And you're the brains behind it.
And it was like, dude, go back to your seat, kind of. So yeah, that was quite epiphany, in itself to see that. Yeah. So
I think like I said, it is really a brilliant thing. And you can actually relate it to, being resilient in terms of getting information and working with information and easy access to information as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So you mentioned something about monetizing.
Yep.
Right now, is the app free or do you have to pay for it?
Absolutely free.
Okay.
So one of our slogans when we created the app, we've changed it now, was by migrants for migrants.
Okay.
Yeah. Built on empathy. So our empathy lay with the migrants because we've been there, we understood, the journey.
Yeah.
So the government wouldn't be able to do this because they don't feel the pain. They can't walk this walk, So it is intrinsically for us to be able to solve this kind of problem. But happily so, the government can't do everything. And they admit this. If you were going to do this, well, come speak to us and we can fund you to be able to help do some of the heavy lifting. So the UK economy or the ecosystem is good that way. You just have to show your intention and your capacity, maybe capabilities or what your intentions are. And then they can look to see how they can help you achieve the outcomes that you're looking for.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. So that's Settlrz. Now, the next thing is the cultural harmony.
My baby.
Yeah, your baby.
Yeah.
It is a brilliant concept. I told you before, but I want to understand what was the motivation behind that, because I'm thinking that you must have gone through some experiences, maybe like settling down or getting to know people from different cultures or understanding other communities. Well, I want to know, and that's why I'm asking the motivation. What drove you to come up with this beautiful concept called cultural harmony?
Well, it's really not about me. The whole of cultural harmony, including the name, did not come from me. Yeah.
So what sparked the idea? There should have been something that
there is.
Yeah.
So, and it's a very poignant story. There's a friend of mine lived in Aberdeen and was leaving Aberdeen and says, "Pete, you know everybody in the city. Obviously, I've been here 33, 34 years. So I have a friend who needs some help. She wants a job, a house, and says, but she's very,
Mhm.
she's a bit unstable,
Mhm.
but just look to help her. And I says, okay, no problem. I'll see what I can do. And I tried to get in touch with the person, did, but they never responded. But after about a couple of months, they then contacted me. We started talking. It turns out that her problem, to cut a long story short, was she's been dealing with Aberdeen Council for quite a bit, so they know her, and they know no, she's like a problem now. When you're in the system, once you see someone, oh, here he
Yeah,
goes
here
again.
she
Yeah,
comes
yeah, yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Here he
So
comes
yeah, yeah,
again.
yeah. So and quite rightly
Yeah.
because they've got their time to do their work and things. So if this same person comes with the same problem, never been
Problem.
solved
Yeah.
over and over again, the very same thing is tedious on the staff and everybody around. So it's just a turn off, So, but um, when I listened to her,
A good skill.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the key. When I listened to her, amongst all her craziness, I realized that she had integrity. She was not going to take the very first thing they gave to her. She's come from Nigeria. She's left her husband, who they have a 5-bedroom house in the portiest place in the city. So she assumed she had the standards. So those were kind of the underlying things that they didn't align with the council. They just wanted, it says, you're in need, we're going to give you
Something. Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
usually the worst place to go in. Then you can be in the system, then maybe go somewhere better. That's just the way it is. She wasn't having it. So, and I then realized, I said, okay, she does have a point. Yeah. Why should she go down to the gutter just because she's having a hard time? So one of my staff, she wouldn't mind me calling her name here. She's a local, Jackie Johnston. She was working for me in my other company. Um, and then, so she would come regularly and Jackie liked her. So Jackie would comfort her because this lady had anxiety. So
Oh
Jackie would,
dear.
yeah, she was just stressed
I
more
think
than
that's
anything
one of
else.
the issues when people or migrants, when they come in, culture shock is there, and that
Yeah.
leads to lots of things like stress and
Yep.
anxiety
Anxiety.
issue,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah. So so Jackie would have to go with her to the council to trying to sort things. And usually when Jackie's there, there's progress because they would just listen to Jackie and try to Jackie would kind of make sense of it all. Like an arbiter.
An arbiter,
Yeah, to
exactly. Go
make sense of it
between.
all. I go between. So they were like, okay, well, so this is what she's meaning and all that. So it was a kind of a process. It was very taxing because she now over relied on us. And bless Jackie. Jackie once stayed in her house because she had this anxiety attack for 15
Oh
hours.
my God.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, so Jackie's like, you're not paying me enough for this. But that's exactly what she did because she cared as well, and she didn't really want that. But again, it was too much for any one person. Anyway, long story short, we're able to get her, and it was during Christmas. She got 4 weeks paid by Aberdeen Uni in Aberdeen Council in a hotel. Then was able to transition into another place. But within that time, I just felt there was some injustice, and I wanted to. I said, "Wow, a lot of people who come here, these people would fall between these cracks. Nobody would be able to understand them. Who's going to stand for them? Who's going to fight for them?" So I said, I wanted to create a charity that would
Harmonize.
justice for
Okay.
people who they just don't understand. So
The
me
culture
being,
difference.
me, I could be that cultural interface between this person. Just what Jackie was there, with that cultural
get that.
interface
Yep.
between
Yeah.
this person and the society. So I tried to start a charity, but if you've ever tried to own a charity, it's not easy.
I think with every business, anything starting new is challenging.
Sign a limited company is dead easy. I can do that in half an hour. 12 quid is all done.
So why
But
is a charity?
because of the regulations. So now with a charity in the UK, you could be given millions if you have the project. Now you can't just give millions to anybody. So there needs ratification. They need to understand that you're serious about this. It's not going to be
Credibility.
that
Yep.
you grab the cash and dash,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So it's important to have these things in just to make sure that it's there's some kind of
Yep.
integrity,
Yeah.
on authenticity. So I had a couple of MPs who were with me, some of my friends, and then we're going to have a big meeting, and they were like, "Yeah, Pete, go for it." And I was like, when I looked behind me, it was just me. I'm like, no, 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 I'm too busy for this. I can't do that. So there's an alternative, which is a social enterprise. Now, this is easier to do and less regulated. Whilst you're not allowed to make a profit still, you can still make a profit. And so it sits in between having a limited company and a charity. So for me, I felt, okay, that's a nice
A safe
space
space.
I can maybe work in. I'm still learning. I'm still learning being into it. Yeah. So, and I'll tell you why I'm still learning. Yeah. Because whilst I should be getting funding, I have received zero funding till date. Yeah. So, but that's the other story. So when I looked at what it was, and now Susan was doing her own thing, I felt, okay, I'm not just going to be serving her. I need to serve the community. And this is where, I said, looking at diversity and inclusion, how can she's diverse, how can she be included into the Aberdeen culture? Yeah. So, and I said, okay, the one thing that unifies diversity and inclusion was culture. And what is culture? And the one thing that everybody has is their own culture. It doesn't matter where you come from, you have your culture. So I then looked and studied in depth about what the pillars were for culture. And it wasn't too many. Stories, traditions, customs, food, drink, clothing, music, dancing, and just pretty much having a good time is what your culture is. So you would have the things in Aberdeen, you'd eat haggis. Um, Black pudding supper, which
Yep.
is made of
Yeah.
blood and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Nigeria, you have your shaki. Now both cultures go for both things. Which is amazing that they eat the same thing, but
Yeah.
just done
Yeah.
slightly
Yeah. Yeah.
differently, and
Yeah.
they're both like you until
It's funny, it's
they
interesting you should
get
say
to it.
that. Yeah, no, interesting because recently, I think last December, we went, I mean, me and my family, we traveled. You brought up this black pudding, and I was like, what's it made of? My daughter told me it's blood,
Blood,
pig's
yeah,
blood or something. And I was
yeah.
like, ew. And then she said,
Try
Mommy,
it.
if you tell someone that where you come from, you eat snail,
Yeah,
they would have that same reaction, like, how can you snail is slimy and all that? I was like, meanwhile, where I come from, snail is like,
a delicacy.
it's
I
a
love it.
delicacy,
Yeah, I love it.
expensive.
Yeah.
So I absolutely get what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of what so it hit me. I was like, oh my God, this is so simple, like absolutely simple. Because remember, charge was too much. I can do this. I can actually bake each thing. And if you want to do something, if you look at the sustainability and longevity of it all, there's 196 countries. If I wanted to do them at 4 times a year, I would be great.
Born out.
So it was something I could start,
Absolutely,
and others
yeah.
can even
Yeah.
take over, and make it even more than that. So I am by no means a leader at all. I don't lead. I take the lead, but I'm not a leader. Yeah.
And you pass the baton to someone else.
Yes, because I like to inspire people. Yeah, I like to inspire people, but I don't want to be the leader. So sometimes when I do my posts on LinkedIn, I says, look, I'm shining here, but it's really not me. I haven't done all the work. It's this people like Sasha. I mean, this they work really hard behind the scene. I was telling you about Najwa, who sent about 200 emails to various people off her own back. It was only when it was all done. She has her own cultural harmony email. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So they're all dedicated people so we have ambassadors for cultural harmony. They're not paid. They're just people who maybe you would say volunteers, but we call them ambassadors. They have their own work and do their own things. Well, one thing that they all have in common is they're passionate about this project and what it entails. So if you look at diversity and inclusion, one of the things we ask ourselves in cultural harmony is what's the outcome? When you're in a classroom or in a corporate setting and you're being trained or taught about diversity and inclusion, are you really taking anything in? How much of that? Of course,
Yep.
you're thinking about how
Yeah.
much of that, but how do you act on it? Yeah. So we felt that with the event, it was the reverse. So maybe if you've had the classroom things, this is a perfect
Is the
practical.
practical
Yeah.
scenario, yeah.
So you come in here, there is zero training. All you come in is just be. Or you just come through threshold and attend events. So it could be somebody who's got no empathy, who's a racist, who doesn't care about anybody else. But if you can, even if you trick them to come into one of our installations, like the one that just went past now, the South Asia experience, all they have to do is just see what's going on, food, drink, music, dancing, and understand the clothing, and it's just being part of it. Understand that these people are really like you. So for us, the outcome we're looking for, which I think is critical, is the fact that they can feel. From feeling, you might lead to understanding.
Understanding,
And from that
absolutely, yeah.
understanding, you might lead to empathy. Well, funny enough, empathy is not the top of it all. I think as 100% win, it will be compassion. Yeah.
I agree with you, but I think once you're able to feel and have that, you relate with the person,
Understanding.
then you get the understanding. And once you get the understanding, I think you now have the connectivity.
Yeah.
Because you're now able to, interact with the person better,
Yeah.
connect with the person better, because you have the understanding of their culture.
Yeah.
And then, the compassion comes in. So it's brilliant. And
Thank you.
you mentioned, yeah, I get the idea about the theory and the practical bit, because I had a guest on the show and he said something about cultural diversity, that it's more like a tick box. No, not he said diversity and inclusion. So some people are doing it as a tick box exercise. They just
Absolutely.
speak about it,
Yeah.
but it's not being practicalized. It's not like being rehearsed. It's not put into motion.
Yeah.
It's just talk, talk, talk. So I think what you're doing is the practical end of it.
Yeah.
How are we? We're talking about we're talking about diversity, sorry, and inclusion. How are we demonstrating that,
Yeah.
like in everyday living, which is, this event. I wish it could be more frequently
Yeah,
than
well,
quarterly,
it's
really.
expensive and a lot of
Yeah,
work.
yeah. Which
So-
which brings me to the question about the challenge, because I know doing anything, no matter how small or little it is, there will be some setbacks and challenges. Could you discuss about that a bit?
Yes. So the one of our big champions is the Lord Provost and Lady Provost, Hazel Cameron of Aberdeen. They would probably come to all our events. The last one we had was a Latin event. They were there. I had to kick him out because they didn't realize it was finished. They were having such a great time. They came in there casuals and just party, dance, shook themselves. Most folk, I would say 90% of them who were at that event did not have any clue that the people who were dancing here was the Lord Provost.
Really?
Yeah, because they just went there.
This was the one that happened
in Rev de Cuba.
23rd of February.
No, that was September
Last year.
Last year,
Okay,
yeah. So
okay.
this one now, they were there, obviously.
Okay.
And I got a lovely note after to say how they really, really enjoy themselves. But these are kind of validations. But he has a quote. He says, it's better instead of speaking about it, and I'm quoting verbatim. He said, instead of speaking about it, it's better to have action and
Live
not
it.
just words.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what we try to do. So when you come to the event, it's really just up to you. I have this theory that once you're past a certain age, no one can really teach you anything else. But experience can.
Yes.
And that's what we really want to do is experience. So in terms of challenges, it's maybe financial, because currently I'm funding every single thing. So I am in debt, maybe about 10 plus thousands now.
Wow.
In debt, trying to push it. But I believe in it and I know we'll get there. As I say, it's a social enterprise. But we're just fresh. We haven't really set ourselves up properly to get into the funding. But as we go forward, we will definitely get support and all that. I know this. I've had a few people reach out to me saying, how can we support this thing? Oh, it looks so good. We miss it. How can we support this? So I know it will come. But as I said, this thing, I have so many other tasks doing. So I'm just catching up to actually say, oh, are you actually a social enterprise? But instead of the tick box, so one of the reasons why you can say tick box, a lot of the people who say they're diversity champions, I don't see them at my events. They don't support at
Do
all.
they know about the event?
Oh, they know. They consume my content and my materials. But there's always one excuse or the other, And I mean, people who I'm actually close to. So it's nice to say, we're doing this diversity stuff, but still, participation is key. Put your mouth or put your money
Where
where
your
your
mouth
mouth
is.
is what I say,
Yeah.
as a gauntlet. I would have any diversity and inclusion debate with anybody, and then let's hear what they're saying and how I come across with what they're doing as a benchmark to what we're doing. So
Yeah. I think it's creating time. I mean, I'm tired of hearing everybody says, I'm so busy, there's no time. I mean, we all have the same 24 hours, a day and 7 days a week, but it's intention, having the intention and yeah, practicing what you preach really. So
Yep.
making our time to be there, to be present, to support, to participate in such events. But yeah, it's really great what you're doing. So in terms of, I mean, you've talked about the challenges, which I think it's common finances for.
Yeah, it's
But
things are
what's
hard.
keeping you? Yeah, but what's keeping you going? Because so I'm asking this question because I know people have projects they want to do or they have plans to get on something, but what keeps you going? What, makes you, you wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm not losing hope, I'm not losing faith, even if I don't have any support right now in terms of finance or funding, I'm still going to do what I'm doing. What's that thing that is making you resilient to keep pushing ahead, even when,
Yeah, you have all the so
yeah, challenges
the
are
challenges are real. I mean, real. But if you look at the progress we're making and the vision, I think for me the vision is what really keeps me going. My central vision, and I encourage everyone to help me to achieve this, is the fact that I want to make Aberdeen the cultural harmony capital.
I'm going to stop you there.
Scotland.
I'm going to stop you there because what you've been saying, Aberdeen, I'm getting, would I say, the envious, jealous? I don't know what word to use, but why you're not thinking? I mean, let's look at Scotland. Let's start with Scotland, and then we can think of the rest of the UK. Are you not looking at like coming out, branching out to other cities?
I am.
You're considering that.
One of the strategies is that you need to build a foundation. And I'll tell you how this works. And Aberdeen is where I've been 33 years, 34 years. So it's a start. When you want to start something, there's no real rush. The as long as you have the vision to include everybody, and we are talking to various people from Edinburgh, all over the places, to actually tap into what we're doing. But remember, it's expensive and it's still just a concept. There is nobody who would come across and says they've heard about it before. Which I would come that says, we've been doing events for 30, 40 years. This is nothing like it. So, but because of my vision of it, and I think it's important to really kind of templatize it, like get it solid and see that it's working, in terms of the outcomes, so what do people feel? What do people think? So it's important to get that feedback and work on it. When I started, to show you how starting small is, we started Cultural Harmony, our first event last year in a church hall. In a church hall is where we started. And I went back to basic and we did the West African one because I'm from West Africa. I'm Nigerian. So that was the easiest one I could deliver on a budget and something. I still lost money, but it was manageable because it was something I understood, food and things and all that. So I could pull together a lot of those resources without, being too backbreaking.
Okay.
But then the next one, we went into Rev the Cuba, now a bigger space.
Yeah, you're
Our,
growing.
yep,
Mhm.
our third one was at Union Kirk, 230 people capacity compared to where we said 67. So I think, so if you listen to what we have toward the end of the year, you'd understand that, okay, there's a go
There's
to here.
growth and there's progress.
So our next program is hopefully in May.
Oh, this May. Okay.
Yep, OGV type room, and we're going to be doing Afro-Caribbean experience. Now, every single one we have, the formats are all different because each of these cultures are different. So they lend themselves to different kind of flow and ebb. So that's kind of how we bake them in. So this one is going to be probably an all-day thing. Instead of where we have a normal on a Friday, we might have it on a Saturday because we want to include the children to create some part of some workshops that connects Afro and Caribbean into this through art, like painting, drumming sessions, dancing, and actually storytelling, from what they've heard from their grandparents and things like that. Now the audience is going to be like the CEOs and executives to consume all this stuff, from people, but it'll be told from the kids and the children's perspectives. We also want to have them to teach them how to run a panel.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So this panel will be on diversity and inclusion. So now the kids will then, when we have a moderator, another child, the kids will then talk about diversity and inclusion from their point of view because kids are just naturally empathetic. They don't really pick their friends by color or whatever. They just, whoever they like, get on with it, know instantly, and they just go for it. So from that point of view, we want them to teach the older people just how natural or how it can flow. Then in the evening time is where we have the reggae party. We have performers. We've got like African gospel choir, which is like a 30-man, crew, drummers, singers, artists. It's just going to be a plethora of craziness, and everybody is kind of invited. So the capacity of the place is, I think, 300 and 350. Okay. So from a church hall to that. Well, our final event of the year, hopefully, would be where we're now going to Scotland. So we're doing the Scottish experience. Hey, really? We'll be, and we're doing it in Drum Castle.
Okay.
You can't do anything about Scotland without being in the castle.
Yeah, come on, absolutely. Exactly. So
agree. Not in the castle, but we'll have marquees outside. Big things.
I wouldn't miss that.
We'll bake in a castle tour as part of the activities. Again, this will be all day, so children are absolutely free. Maybe parents will be like maybe £5 or £3 or maybe 10. It just depends, but they can come and they'll be like axe throwing, archery, all the essential Scottish stuff. Now, again, this is not just me. I'm using the might of my Scottish connections to make all this happen, so we'll in Scotland, people just know Hogmanay, Burns, and St Andrews. We're going to mash them all up times together. 10, and just scale it so that you can really, really see everything that Scotland has in the one spot. Yeah, beautiful. So that's my dream. Now you can imagine how the size of that. So folk are welcome to come from anywhere they want to come from. They've got helipads, so if you go helicopter, you can land and all that. So that's where we're going. Beautiful. So we're getting good support from the National Trust, who run all the castles in the area. So we're having conversations.
So in terms of marketing, is it, how much of that have you done to cover like Edinburgh, Glasgow? Because it's something that people might consider driving down to attend.
Yes. So we haven't so far, but my inbox is just full of regrets. How come we didn't know about this? When I've got like one of my very good and they're like, why didn't we know about this? I'm like, we're just building. No,
it's good. So, it's good,
But obviously for the September one, it's guaranteed to be big. We went to Subsea Expo and easily 30, 40 people says, Pete, let us know about this. We'll be happy to. This is like something we'd want to sponsor. So that's what I mean that I'm encouraged because I know that what we have
So that's
planned,
keeping you going.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's gonna
Okay,
come.
no,
Yeah,
that's good. I think what you've said makes sense. So you touched on, you said leader, sorry, you said vision. Yeah.
vision.
Talked about
Yeah,
having that vision. So that's what keeps you going. And I think the fact that you are having that encouragement. So, you're taking little steps and you're seeing the encouragement, you're seeing people, interested.
yep.
That again, is pushing you. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing a lot of
Yep.
that.
Thank
Before
you,
we
Anna.
end, what would a message to someone out there listening to this podcast, a message of encouragement? It could be a young entrepreneur starting, a business, a social enterprise. What word of advice would you like to share to such a person?
Well, one of the things that I've found is as a startup myself, looking at some like Settlrz, is that there is an ecosystem. And I can allude this to something like going to church. When you go to church, you find just a support system around you.
Mhm.
If you go to church once and you go, or no, you only go next year, the reception will be different.
Mhm.
But if you go regularly, you know you're coming home. Even if you go once a year, when you're coming back in the next year, it's like you're not sure. So you have to really be part of an ecosystem, for a startup. There's a lot of support, but it's hard for them to support you if you're not part of the
The
ecosystem.
system.
So
Yeah.
they kind of just gravitate to giving things to people who they see,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And one of the things I'll say is for anybody thinking of like being an entrepreneur or a startup is to look for good ideas, or ideas that you can make great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so having good ideas, we all have good ideas, but how to make the idea great is the task. But with Settlrz, I have found that there's actually two different things: working on the app and building a company. Two different things.
Yeah.
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 So right
Yeah.
now we're still just focusing on the
On the
app.
app.
Yeah, we're not where we're but for us to be a unicorn or to be in the hundreds of millions, we need to build a company. And that's where your question previously about scaling
Yep.
comes in. Yeah.
Scalability. Yeah.
So to then scale will be that we've demonstrated proof of concept. We've got lots of paying people. Currently, I think we have 30,000 people on. Is that enough for someone to want to advertise? Maybe, maybe not. But when we get to 30,000, folks are okay. When we get to 3 million, yeah. And when we get to a billion, that's you've made it. So those are the kind of actionable steps, and that's exactly what it is. But there's a lot of work in it and a lot of cost. So it's just myself, Dina, and Naveen, and I think one or two other people. But if we're to scale as you speak, we'll have maybe 2,000, 3,000 staff. Yeah, that's just the reality of it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. I like the fact you mentioned ecosystem. So
Yep.
I believe it doesn't only have to be church. It could be, I think what the important message is, find like a support network.
Yes.
It could be you're volunteering for a particular group.
Yes.
It could be, it could be the mosque, it could be the church, it could
Yeah.
be in school, university, but a network of
Yeah, so
of
sorry, in
friends.
in sort of as Settlrz, there's a tech ecosystem.
Mhm.
They're the ones that actually made us launch.
Okay.
They supported our opening. We've been in TV, STV, newspapers, radios. They helped to make all that happen by supporting us, putting us in the right place, giving us space to do the launch. These are things that cost money, but they're part of it to make it all happen.
Yeah.
I get called to different events to speak, to be part of, TV stuff, or televised or videoed events, or clips. But again, that's because they know and want to help. If I'm not in that ecosystem,
You can't get the
I will
support.
miss out.
Yeah,
Then I will
absolutely.
complain.
Yeah.
So sometimes you will see some things from afar and go, how come they? That's a good question, but I would encourage anyone to not compete, look to create and look to collaborate. competition
Beautiful
is weak.
advice.
Yeah, you have to create your own,
And
but also
collaborate. Yeah.
collaborate. So it's
Beautiful.
a simple
Yeah.
thing as
Yeah.
going, hey guys, I see you guys did this, and I think I missed out. How can I be part of this? Would I be welcome here? And nine and a half or 10 times, it'd be like, absolutely.
I like that. I think we'll end with that. I like the
Oh, I have 10 more. No.
So be creative and learn to collaborate. I think that's a very nice way to end this
Thank
episode.
you.
Thank you so much, Pete.
Anna.
And if you want to connect with Pete, you could check him up at LinkedIn, right?
I live
And
there.
I know he will be very, very happy to respond to you. So
Why?
thank you for this
Why
episode.
do you know this?
I know, I'm sure. If you have received any valuable information on this episode, please remember to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and also to share the video to your contact. Anyway, I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye.